One day when my daughter was in high school, she had something kind of terrible happen to her. I can't even remember what it was, to be honest, because it felt really terrible at the time. I don't know what it was now. But anyway, I was really worried about her throughout the day. She would text me from school and this thing had happened. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna be the best mom ever. And I'm going to like get her some balloons and have her favorite treat and have it waiting for her at home because she'd have this really horrible day. And so I pick her up from school and she comes in the door and I give her these things and she kind of looked at me really weird and like kind of annoyed. And then I was annoyed because I was like, I've done these nice things for you. You've had a really terrible day. And then she said, Mom, like, why did you assume that I couldn't handle the thing that I texted you? And I was like, I don't know, because I thought that this is what I would want in this situation. And she's like, yeah, but it just makes me feel like you don't think I can handle hard things when you make a big deal out of me handling a hard thing. And I was like, wow. So instead of trying to fix the situation for my daughter, I could have expressed trust and worked to create emotional safety. To me, confidence is the result of secure relationships. Insecurity is the result of insecure relationships. In order for safety and security to exist in a relationship, there needs to be reciprocal trust that goes both ways. It's not just the parents trusting the kids. The kids also, in turn, have to feel like they can mess things up. We all need to mess things up because we only gain confidence through mistakes. So I'm going to say that again. We only gain confidence through mistakes. And we're only allowed mistakes if we feel emotionally safe. What role does parenting style have in creating reciprocal trust? Well, we build reciprocal trust when we have a very consistent, fair, and gentle way of interacting with our children. This kind of parenting style is referred to as authoritative. It means that we give our kids appropriate autonomy and respond to their needs. When our parenting style is avoidant or permissive, we aren't establishing emotional safety. We aren't teaching our kids how to come back from mistakes. The message is, you just don't care. On the other hand, if you have a very authoritarian parenting style, love is conditional on your approval. Kids know that if they mess up, they're going to be punished. And that kind of environment does not lead to emotional safety, ever. Helicopter parents unintentionally send a similar message. I don't trust you. I don't feel as though you are capable. I'm not going to love you if you make this mistake. Most parents don't want to be a helicopter parent. We all are kind of afraid of that. We don't want to accidentally teach our kids that they aren't good enough or that we don't trust them. But letting go of that is really uncomfortable. It's inevitable that our children are going to get hurt, as much as we hate that. Our children are human beings here to make their own mistakes and experience all of their feelings. This is their life, regardless of how old they are. They're their own little people in their own little bodies. Of course, we want to keep them safe within an age-appropriate limit, but until they have their own experiences with pain and with getting hurt, they're not going to be able to trust themselves to tolerate anything difficult or build the confidence that we're looking for. Accepting the fact that our children are going to get hurt releases us from our fear. And when our fear no longer drives the bus, we can then open up space to trust our kids. How do we stop becoming a micromanaging or a helicopter parent? One habit that interferes with building trust and confidence is micromanaging. Micromanaging is all about the parent's level of anxiety and fear. It's never about our kids. I know that's hard to hear. It's always about making ourselves as parents feel better about what we're doing to control and raise our children. Because if we have control and we have a false sense of certainty, then we're a good parent. I think that's the story we sell ourselves because it makes us feel like we're doing the right thing. But at the end of the day, you really don't know what's right for your kid because, again, they're their own person. Your child needs to explore and play and grow so they can discover and make their own mistakes. They can get their hands dirty. They can learn how to develop a moral compass. If we're micromanaging them to the point where they don't have the opportunity to make decisions, try things for themselves, we're removing that ability for them to develop confidence. Nobody develops confidence by being successful, ever. We develop confidence by failing and then getting back up. So trusting your kid to figure out their life is easier said than done. I mean, I've obviously struggled with that as well. If you struggle to step back, here are 3 tips that will help you when you know it's okay to let go. Number 1, resist the urge to check. If I had $1 for every time I've told a parent to remove their password from their kid's grade account, I would be rich. We're always checking our kids' locations or grades, and it's not good for us as parents or for our kids. Checking creates tension and anxiety and more fear for parents. It's a compulsive act. In fact, when my daughter went away to college, I still had her location on my iPhone, and I kind of didn't make a practice of this until she was in college, but I just needed to know she was at her college every night. And then there were times she wasn't, and I was getting so stressed out, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's 18. I've got to turn the location off. So when you drop this habit, it gives your kid the space they need to learn to manage their own life. And it means you'll have more open communication with your kid. Because to find out how they're doing in school, you'll actually need to have a conversation instead of checking their location or their grades. Number 2, focus on the effort rather than the outcome. There's nothing wrong with expectations, I love them. But family rules can create structure. But if your child chooses not to participate in that structure, you can have a built-in consequence. So it's not like consequences are bad, but consequences shouldn't be shame-based, and it shouldn't be about competence or outcome. It should always be about effort. Perfectionists and micromanagers love outcomes. Okay, you work on your homework. Let me see what you did. Let me check it off. That's generally what we do as parents. Instead of saying, hey, you know what? You worked for a half hour. Nice job. I can see you were really devoted to that. Creating less shame around expectations, they're guidelines. They're a roadmap, but people are going to take different routes. It's perfectly fine to allow your kids space to get to that final destination on their own terms. Number 3, identify and prioritize your most important values. A way I kind of structured this in my own home with my daughter was by picking 3 non-negotiables. It was a way for me to kind of limit myself from micromanaging, because that is definitely my proclivity. And if these 3 things happened, then there were consequences. Of course, she would also do other things, like she'd come home late sometimes, but she'd call and she'd tell me. Curfew wasn't one of my non-negotiables. Would we have a conversation about it? Yeah, of course, because I wanted to let her know I had feelings about that. But would there be a huge consequence attached to it? No. Clear non-negotiables allow your kid to figure out how to navigate their life within your family values. So if you feel like you are still working on building or rebuilding trust and confidence, here are a couple other points to consider. Remember, actions speak louder than words, especially with teenagers. Kids respond better to what they see rather than what they hear you say. Teenagers don't give a crap about what you're saying. What they care about is what they see you doing. They're the first to call us hypocrites. If we tell our kids not to be on their phone an hour before bedtime, but yet we take our own phone into our own bedroom, that sends a conflicting message. So often I see parents making the mistake of telling their kids, I trust myself to do this, but not you. This is really detrimental to a kid's confidence and can also add to a lot of tension to our relationships. If you are going to set limits, make sure you are ready to live by your own standards. Hypocrisy never builds trust. Recovery is the best measure of success. Mistakes are going to happen. Trust will sometimes need to be rebuilt, but confidence is built as we come back from those mistakes. I have worked with kids that have been in long-term care. Parents will often ask me, how do I know they're getting better? My best way to frame this answer for parents is by explaining that it's not about the number of mistakes or the number of issues you have when your child returns home from being in care. It's about how quickly they can recover after a setback. And as parents, we often measure our success based on the lack of issues our children have. But that couldn't be further from the truth. We want them to recover. We are good parents if our children come to us when they're failing. If our children call us when they need support. If our children feel safe enough to tell us really uncomfortable and hard things. We are good parents when we apologize to our kids and own and learn from our mistakes. That's how we measure our success as a parent. That's what recovery looks like. Trust and confidence are gained in recovery. It takes trust to ask for help or to say that we are sorry. But these things strengthen our relationships and they make us better people. Trust is the action, confidence is the outcome. So, what can we do to help with the recovery process? Well, rather than saying, remember we talked about this, I was worried you weren't going to have enough time to study, and now you see ... Try saying, that's a big feeling that you're feeling right now. How are you going to approach this differently next time? How can I support you with that? That kind of response builds both trust and confidence because it shows that you think they're smart enough to kind of work through this problem, even if they've maybe just made a big mistake. When we don't give our kids the opportunity to make autonomous decisions, to make mistakes, to rupture their relationships and their relationships with us, then we are teaching them that they aren't capable, which leads them to feeling inadequate and unconfident. When our kids are adults, I think, we really recognize how important it was, instead of focusing on the prevention of pain for our kids when they grew up with us, that we actually focused on the opportunity for them to gain the understanding that they can do and feel hard things and still be okay, that in your family you can do and feel hard things and still be okay. That's what really creates confident adults. So, as we parent, we create secure relationships, we create intimacy with our children, we create safety in their worlds by allowing them to be their own little people, by allowing them to make mistakes and allowing them to come to us when they need their support. At the end of the day, what we really want to give our kids is the ability to fail, make mistakes, and receive love in those positions. We want to teach them that they can fail and that we're always going to be there for them. And that's what actually creates confident kids, not like a million sports after school, not getting straight A's. All of those things are great and we like that for our kids, but what really creates lives that are built in confidence is mistakes and recovery. And we need to have an environment that's emotionally safe enough to be able to trust them to make those mistakes.